Sheila here with Sirius Taurus Moon, and this is a second energy reading that, let's just put it that way. I was looking at 2027 April and May, and the closing Venus square Pluto, the opening Venus square Pluto from Taurus, and now Chiron is opening that square to Pluto. That particular aspect was on degree 7 of accumulating action, and it was very evident that the seeing people as livestock affected the writing of Genesis to create artificial oppression and abolish sexuality that is actually willing consent. It left us with only rape in the Bible. And the way we treated livestock is coming after that, not before that. The second energy reading that I have to give made it very, very clear that just to try to be vegan, just to try to be or pescatarian or whatever fits, or keto or whatever fits a person, is not suffice. That the abolition of rape and emotional abuse and any type of abuse comes before those food choices. This is the way I saw it, because those food choices are not even available also on an emotional eating level. And what I saw it taken from the previous energy reading, where it's like masses of people need to die so that people can live. Now there is a permeability with Neptune, Aries, Pluto, Aquarius. There's a permeability of something like a melting pot of humanity, together with the thinning of the veil between individuals, and this growing tension actually increases the pressure to sovereignty, because the only way we can curate the inflammation-based diseases from neurodegenerative or genetic supposedly based to whatever people call mental ailment and so on. It's not about the surgical process in the physical body in as much as it's about shifting the culture, so that to make place for the actual medicines to emerge. We will not find the cure for these diseases in just drugs or in a surgery. Even editing genes would compound to something that creates mutation, or the mutation will be keeping to recreate itself, or to create itself in different patterns, until we abolish those patterns in society. And I'm speaking as a person who's coming from lineages that are not exempt from these. Those teachings usually come from people that are connected to those teachings. Um, of course, and this is where the mass death legitimization comes. And I was thinking about something that doesn't want, or taking the life of something that doesn't want to die, or something that did want to live. Um, it can meet different people in different connotations. And this is also something that tends to the population and overpopulation or depopulation. Um, Again, I'm thinking about the two farmers in Britain that had the farm and during financial crisis decided to just let the animals roam and remove the fences, and then they had basically created a lively ecosystem with extinct species and the best food, the most organic food, whether animal food or not. The questions of consumptions, the questions of fertility, um, and the awareness that there were human farms in the Epstein files. And that people were born in that way. And it's not impossible that many of the people that have the worst agendas were born in that way. Because it seems like something wants to live, but it can only live when there is mass death of people, and the mass death of people are emotionally abusive and or sexually abusive and or any type of abusive. There was even the quest to bring upon um, transition to or crossing over in a way that is loving. Um, and the understanding that the keeping nature or people because of what they bring alone is not like there has to be something that extends beyond that. It's also the agrarian notion of keeping an animal because it brings food, or something that's supposed to meet certain even emotional needs, or um, that these type of relations that are purely meat based are not something there is not, or something there. Now, of course, meeting our needs is important adaptively. So there's a lot of confusion, but also a lot of clarity. But what I've been feeling is the energy of oneness with even faraway lands. In this region, I've been feeling that particularly with energy of United States, of oneness with United States. Um, I know that there are a lot of, physically, there are a lot of American forces on the land, and of course they carry energy, and the energy of the states is very present, is very evident. Even here, even I was taking the train and suddenly the roads were looking wider, or something about the energy was looking different. It was looking like a mix of energies. And the union, um, that was felt on an energy level, very profoundly. Again, we have a lot of American forces on the land. Chiron going through 8th house of Israel, Mercury through 8th house of Cancer, through 8th house of United States Sibley chart, Mars Uranus, Mars Sedna. Something is calling for profound union, profound recovery, profound healing of these two countries or the region. Um, Mars squaring the nodes. Perhaps I will also look at world news for this one. And actually, yeah, Krakatoa is alive and kicking, which definitely anybody that I think they already understand from the fact that it's alive and kicking. I'm thinking more like the 1800. I don't think the 500 AD. I think that this one is not the one. I could be wrong, but it's not the one. I think the 800 is though, and that's a big deal. It was something that's completely a while ago, decade ago, I think. I had a friend that woke up with an equation, and it had to do with natural disasters, and I came with this notion like putting one thing and another thing with Feynman, and then some some astrologers were doing the and it was a one Dutch scientist and astrologers. I think Roman Kolev also does the astrology of earthquakes and natural disasters, but also and I was just looking at the nuclear politics and saying, hey, even the astrology here is not completely the thing, but this one was suddenly just with Uranus, it just happened, and I gave a notice for evacuation on my channel when it comes to Krakatoa, which I think is beyond reasonable doubt that something's going to happen there. I do predict the 1800 type of scale of an event. Um, and I tried to ask the people that speak the language to contact the local authorities. I don't think people would take me seriously as not even a known earthquake or natural disaster astrologer. Um, But I also hope that the people are aware, or that they do feel or sense, and that they too take take that they don't wait for the notice, because the sea doesn't always push itself backwards. And again, as usual, when somebody finds, if I think about the person that invented the soap was was locked in an asylum. People that found actual cure for cancer had their fundings cut when they discovered that it works. So it's something that is quite, yeah, the fact that life-saving stuff is life-risking to tell is challenging. um, and Mamdani and Kamala Harris made. Okay, Iran notified the end of the negotiations in Qatar. They accused the Jewish agency accuses the government that it promotes laws that harm the Jews um, of the diaspora. Israel wanted to have imprisonment on equal prayer in the Wailing Wall. Um, it's I don't often agree with Jews on religion, but this time. But again, for the Jews in the diaspora, to think about Genesis. Okay, be courageous. Think. You know, think about the fact that if we don't ask for enough, then we are going to end up with not enough, and that not enough is and that enough is non-negotiable. Okay, I think preventing the Inquisition timeline. So what would be the point of interference in abolishing the Inquisition, which is also and particularly for Christians? Okay, so what difference does it make to equally pray in the Wailing Wall when everybody reads the book where they denounce and exile willingly consensual sex and promote rape basically as procreation and subjugation of the women, and then they say, oh, read the Gemara and so on and so forth. Genesis, basis. If the first chapters of Genesis look worse than Mein Kampf, somebody is going to point that out. It's better that somebody would be a Jew. Um, and then Israel wanted to outlaw people that converted to Judaism that are not Orthodox in order to arrive to Israel. Um, Father, I think they're going to leave you and I'm still faint. and, um, but here's the thing, Nederland is having weird moments with his passport time. So those are harming the diaspora Judaism and can destabilize the pluralism, the Jewish pluralism, and weaken the Jewish people, which is absolutely okay if we read Genesis, that is negating, is basically banning sexuality that's not rapey. Like, okay, think about holistic medicine. The problem becomes bigger sometimes, not in all cases, but the problem becomes bigger until we actually tend to the core issue. Now, when we talk about human farms or the mistreat of cattle, we're basically talking about the distinction between behemoth and people, which is beyond artificial. So much so that I really don't know if in a world where sexuality that is actually sexuality and not rape is the sexuality in the world, I really don't know what would be our nourishment, what would be our food. Would we need meat, would we not need meat? I don't know. Okay, it's just like it's an open-ended question without judgment. There are animals that eat animals. It's just like we have to take that C factor first, and that in itself is already reasoning that no, we can't just keep cattle confined. And we see that the trajectories for farms um, goes towards the rewilding, even when it comes to the quality of the meat of those that do eat meat. And the naturally growing herbs, together with basically the animals that roam the earth, are consistent in ecosystem, but they're also carrying food that prevents cancer and probably other neurodegenerative diseases, is my prediction, but only if we don't abuse or rape. Um, so again, this probably is this Jupiter applying to oppose Pluto into the golden age basket burn. I'm sorry, I think it's Barb. I don't remember his name, but there's the Bernoulli equations, and I keep saying I keep hearing Bernoulli, and I mix that. Barbolt, I don't know. Um, okay, somebody offered somebody to get married on the Empire State Building. Um, I hope they didn't turn him down. um, yeah, yeah, they did. They refused to come down from the tower they climbed on. Happy marriage. So yeah, they want to in Israel to have as equivalent of constitutional law to study the Torah. I think they should watch what they wish for. That's a shit ton of Uranus in Gemini children asking, but why, why did they say equal? You created them, and then, but why? What's the problem that Eve ate an apple, but they wanted to be together, and then they don't want us to procreate or something. That's why they're giving us that this Torah. Like there's gonna be, King David was a rapist. That it's a Uranus Gemini generation. I mean, people should really. The children that are going to school right now are the children that had Uranus in between Aries and Taurus when they were born. So it's the after Me Too children. Um, these children are acutely aware of the need to have sexuality that is sensual and actually not rapey. Like that was the timestamp. That was, if they were born there, if they were born because of that. Like that is kind of like mommy talked to her yoni and daddy talked to his penis, and and they had a nice conversation and they agreed, and and then babies came into the world, and then a child goes to school and he reads Genesis and is like, no, that's not how it happens. Like, yeah, there was a time after the Me Too that there were no gender wars. And um, Canada, somebody threw stones to a Jewish man in Toronto. Um, and threatened to murder him because he was wearing the penguin uniforms. And I don't know. That's just yeah. But and it's anti-Israeli calls. It's like it's not Israeli anyway. It's um okay. More Torah stuff. Israel is looking funny because they want to recruit the Orthodox people, even though most of them do go to the army. And then there are 300 people that are reading from Vilnich group that are reading um, Gemara in front of the juristic department in Jerusalem as protest of arresting those who did not go to the army. So they just sit there and study Gemara. Um, yeah, Israel is looking funny right now. If anybody wants to study Gemara in Jerusalem, I think there is an open class. um, it was a funny because in Lod there was something that was probably terror, but because they have Arab population and there is crime in Arab society, they didn't know if it was just crime or terror. Lud. Um, and they were there's a party that wants to silence the call of the muezzin. because it's too noisy. I think again they should watch what they wish for because I think Jews are quite noisy in other events as well. I lived in Arad. I lived next to a place where there were parties every Saturday. I had a neighbor that would sometimes get ticked off. I would be afraid to say something. It was like into like the middle of the night. She would go out there and it would be like silence in them. And they were very gay. I mean, happy. I mean, they were, they were loud, okay? I was surprised. I was like, okay, that's the Orthodox do celebrate. um, so far, let's see world news. I cannot say that the Mars squaring the nodes did not have um, any effect. Now, because Rao is ruled by Jupiter, I think we saw it with the Orthodoxy as well, and world news. Venezuela, I think there are 50,000 missing, which is beyond troubling and shows how unprepared the world is for earthquakes, even in the regions that are susceptible, like this region. Afghanistan airstrikes, rights violation in Congo. How extreme heat is exposing extreme inequality. Yeah, France, get yourself an AC. Don't wait for Le Pen was was cashing in on the votes that wanted an AC in France. There are no AC in the hospitals. I mean, it's like, oh, it's public health. Everybody, good prices for public transportation. No air conditioning. The summer. Oh, it's only a week or two, but that's it's a filtering. In engineering departments in university, there are the filtering courses that people can barely pass. That's a filtering of the population. Summers in Europe are the filtering for how much um, how European are you? Now, particularly because people drive to the south, they go near the seal but into the water. Um, Trump was flying for the first time in his Qatari Air Force One 5 hours ago. I could think of better dates to lie. Fortunately, no news since then, so it means that's good news. Nothing wrong with the plane. Anything trying to take off when Mars is applying to conjoin Sedna and Uranus squaring the nodes is a big deal. Like it, aid convoy. But just remember that the first flight of this plane is with Mars squaring the nodes. I would. And when you ask an point of view, you ask an astrologer, and they give you their honest opinion. Climbing the Empire State and got engaged. Trump accused of disgusting greed after earning over $2 billion since return to office. Um, I don't know the tax the rich. Congratulations, dividends. Every, um, world oceans experience hottest June ever. Scientists say more heat ahead. Don't ask me how he made his money. I don't know. Okay, so who is? Oh, there was a dog on board of a plane. Um, why the world needs to act now regarding AI? I don't know. What can we do? After two powerful earthquakes, what is the reality on the ground in Venezuela? Yeah, there's 50,000 missing. Violence displaces thousands of Haiti. Well, no, that kind of like that's the news. It's like 52 minutes ago, two people got engaged over the Empire State Building. Nothing much. Probably the release. The release can be Krakatoa, but right now it's okay. Mars just ingress to degree 2. It's still working the minutes. Um, Venus, Moon 29 degrees. Venus 21 degrees Leo. Venus trining Lilith here, giving us a full-blown Me Too effect in spirit and in matter. That is, again, also not so visible. It's kind of like in the background. Um, ruling over Chiron in Taurus. Actually applying to trine Chiron in Taurus. And Chiron in Taurus in sextile and trine to the nodes. So this, how should I say, today, tomorrow, July 3rd, going to be quite tense, might not be so predictable, and tending to the bigger disasters, tending to Krakatoa, tending to at the Venezuela disaster for those that are either in the rescue team. Let's do a little bit of tending to the missing. I did one prior to the disaster in Venezuela. I did not predict it. It just happened. Okay, ascendant with the moon, 29 degrees Capricorn, Saturn in Aries, which would be the fourth house. Neptune in the 4th house, Mars in the 6th house with Sedna and Uranus, Mercury in the 7th, midheaven ruled by Mars, middle decan Scorpio, Mars Sedna tending to the missing at home that were those that went missing at home could have become either open enemies or of at the key position or at the key conflict between partners, open enemies, and allies. So the question of the missing now I was opening that chart regarding Venezuela. The missing people can become a point of argument or conflict with allied or open enemies, nations, but the moon is here in the 1st house, so it can be a point of like a polarization between Venezuelans and themselves, but it might also be related to the area from where I broadcast, which is Israel, or the question of the missing, and there's something to do with the missing people are working or at work, or they went missing when they were at work, or the rescue teams at work can become a point of conflict or polarization. Why? I don't know. Either in Venezuela it's kind of like probably, oh well, Israel has assisted in rescuing, but also there can be also something about the rescue teams themselves, or it's kind of like, yeah, they did that good thing, but we should not um, erase other things, or polarization regarding that. And within Israel is the question of those teams, something regarding those teams, their work with the Venezuelan people. There can even be polarization regarding on how to do the work of the search and rescue, and that there might be a lot of people dead because of delays, and then people might kind of like ask questions. Um, I think United States placed also people, military people, to the teams, and that can prompt the question: is it like a military revolution or military junta, or is it a search and rescue? Because with this Mars Uranus Sedna, those issues can come up. Um, the missing people might feel betrayed, or there might be an act that is they can be cautious around the missing people's fate, that they would be well treated, namely that they would not become sadness stories. Um, Something fated, something in the square of the nodes. I think we're gonna hear about those missing people, and they're gonna create some polarization. Now, Neptune can be both the missing and the search and rescue team. So this is why the reading is confused, because it does have this dual. Now, of course, some of the missing people could have had questionable roles in. Yes, they're like it's people, It can be. It's kind of like the good ones with the bad ones, and unfortunately, that reading of Uranus in the first term of Gemini, which was the good died with the bad, is quite very sadly. We see that very sadly happening. And no, it was not a speaking something into being. It was awareness um, that those things are possible, and perhaps even need to be mentioned, because with the disasters that occurred, it's incorrect to say that it happened because of subjugation of the feminine, so those that subjugated the feminine died. Well, not only. And that's the first deacon of kind of like the good died with the bad in that sense, or everybody was affected. With Sedna, there is the notion of hurt people, which adds to that sometimes there's not intended harm, and people try to sort things out to the best of their ability within a context of not really knowing how to, or what to do, or what is right, or what is right in the circumstances. This, by the way, could have created delay. I was on another note. I was watching the conflict around the Caspian Sea, and how the disagreement of whether it is a sea or an ocean, a sea or an ocean, a sea or a lake. Sea translate to yam in Hebrew, which would mean which would mean the open seas, and lake would be also sea, because, for example, we would say the Dead Sea, and we would say regarding the Kinneret Sea, although those are probably big lakes. Yeah, they're called seas, but they're called seas because of the same issue of distribution, which probably is connected to maritime law, of the distribution of the natural resources and the right to mine resources. So apparently, if we define it as a lake, there is an equal division. If we define it as a sea, there is the division that is relative to the line, to the seashore in each country, and this kept us from over drilling the Caspian Sea for a while. Then they tried to go on a route without Russia, and then I was midway into watching. So that's a fascinating story, how sometimes controversy, bureaucracy, and conflict maintain the ecosystem. Unlike the Strait of Hormuz right now, or not, I don't know what happened. What would happen if people would agree on stuff there? Um, with Mercury retrograde, any agreement will be refined. It's kind of like we're probably having the footnotes, but there would be more refining upon the direct motion. So any peace agreement that is signed right now is um, not the fine print. Mercury retrograde is ruling the Mars-Uranus-Sedna conjunction that squares the nodes, and Ketu so this is another point to consider, that entire thing is going to have a revisitation upon the Mercury direct motion. So it's not just the hot spot of the squaring the nodes of the 2-3 degrees Gemini, but also the Furious spot of the 25, 6, 7 Cancer, and the 29th, 8, and the 0 degree of Aquarius, 29th, 8 of Capricorn. All of those, of course, including Neptune, Saturn, Chiron, are trigger points to the events that we're going to be seeing today, tomorrow, and leading to July 4th or to the 4th of July. What am I hearing? Why does it sound like a siren? You're not a siren. I wasn't notified of anything, although that's the exact type of thing that can happen with this transition. Identify yourself. Do you identify as a siren? No, not the ones that lead sailors offshore. What is that? Is it a plane? Is it a siren? Are we supposed to be in the shelter? Right now, nothing is on the news. Infant died in basically where they send them. Oh God. He was just found unconscious at the kindergarten when he was staying. At a private kindergarten. Just. Yeah. It's a private kindergarten. It's not like even a public ouch. It's something like really sudden and over nothing. Infant mortality. Do I see here anything that talks about infant mortality? Oh, Venus is in the 8th house when I'm reading this, ruling over Chiron in Taurus, which would be in the 5th house. So the pre-linguistic phase with the Sun in the 7th, Moon. Jupiter Leo squaring Chiron. Jupiter is children, big children. Chiron pre-linguistic phase. But I don't know to tell you. I don't know what happened or anything like that. I'm not gonna try even. It can be because of the heat. It can be many things. I mean, heart issues with the 8th house. Leo can be heart-related issues. Moon delay in care, something that can unfortunately absolutely happen in extreme cases. As terrible as it is. Getting heart palpitations. Heart palpitations. Heart palpitations. And the rhythm of the heart, maybe because Chiron, Venus is the rhythm. It's not the numeric so much as the tone. The tone, it could have been that there was something Um, the trine to Lilith here is striking. Lilith is in the 12th house. Was an infant, was a baby boy infant. Lilith can have to do with infant mortality, but why? Um, yeah, I don't know. Okay, those things are not. Those things are like, it's like, oh, that came up, but I don't know if that is noise or omen. Um, and definitely, when I was thinking infant mortality, I was thinking Lilith in Jupiter sign, but I don't know what's the connection here. But what I was receiving was heart palpitations. That's um, sad, sad, sad reality. Terrible loss. Venus ruling Chiron in Taurus, Venus being in Leo can have to do with the tonality or the rhythm of the heart, of the physical heart. Sun in Cancer to do with care. The moon here can be delaying care, or until somebody noticed, or until somebody saw. Um, it is Saturn in Aries, Mars said no. There was that delay um, resulted in a fatal, sudden fatal. Um, and there's another topic that I want to talk about. Well, following the 7th of October, there's a lot of discussion about the challenges, the traumas that even children have, the also the esoteric stuff that happened affected children, and the esoteric stuff that happened was emotionally but also sexually abusive. And that could have affected infants and children. That in that case would not just be neurodivergence, it would be that basis, and it's not about any use of drugs should take that into account, is what I'm saying. Um, is a topic I've been raising into awareness for almost a decade, and um, now unfortunately become an onset that is beyond dramatic. Um, so those spiritual warfares, they affect infants, and that can cause infant mortality. I'm not saying about the case that was in the kindergarten, I'm saying in general that can cause infant mortality because it's simply better for the infant. They would not have a way to speak, and they would be subjected to a lot of